Tonight, this is an incredible as well as very controversial story.
And it all started with a photographer who met a Tulsa doctor in Africa.
Now, that doctor claimed to have a cure for AIDS. In fact, the national media have covered parts of this story over the years.
But we've uncovered evidence and interviews never seen before. Tonight, Fox 23's Janet Clark with an exclusive and eye-opening report.
A picture of a broken down schoolhouse, one of a mother hoping she'll be able to feed her twin babies. A professional photographer from Tulsa, Doug Henderson, has traveled the world and seen so many stories, but he's kept the story behind one of his photographs to himself until now. It's the story about what's inside this vial.
But the content of the vial is what makes it valuable.
When a friend asked him to travel to Africa to take some photographs, he didn't think it was a big deal.
We had no idea what we were stepping off into at this point.
But when Doug got there, what he saw, that turned out to be a very big deal. In 2004, Doug flew to Africa to the Ivory Coast, where he met a man from Tulsa, a man who made an enormous claim.
He said, I have what I believe to be the cure for AIDS.
That struck a chord with Doug. He'd watched his brother-in-law slowly slip away from the virus. He was only 44.
Well, that's a miserable way to die.
So when this Tulsa doctor said he had a cure for AIDS, Doug was willing to hear what he had to say.
It's dependent upon the severity of the illness based upon what's known as a viral load and the stage of the illness.
The doctor was Gary Davis, a family practitioner who'd graduated from Dartmouth Medical School and who'd been a captain in the U.S. Navy. In 2007, Dr. Davis died with an impressive resume. But when Doug first met the doctor in 2004, he thought surely a man with these credentials wouldn't joke about having a cure for AIDS. But Doug says he was skeptical, to say the least.
I'm less concerned with what people say or what people claim. I'd like to see the evidence.
Doug says Dr. Davis told him dozens of his patients and even close friends had died from AIDS. And then he told Doug a bizarre story about how he came up with the idea for his so-called cure.
The way he tells the story, that night he had a dream. He had a dream. He doesn't call it a vision, he calls it a dream. And in this dream, he was injecting a goat with the HIV virus. And he understood from this dream that he would be able to develop antibodies, a serum from goat blood.
A cure for AIDS from a goat. Doug was even more skeptical. But as Dr. Davis told how he developed the serum, Doug says it did sound logical.
This is a biological substance that is produced after a goat has been immunized with the AIDS virus, and then this specialized chemical that kills the AIDS virus is extracted out of the bloodstream.
Dr. Davis told Doug he first tested his theory in a lab at Tuskegee University in Alabama in 1996. He injected goats with AIDS, and instead of getting sick, they developed antibodies against the virus.
I have been with the doctor for a year and a half.
Dr. Davis's assistant, Linda Wilmez, says the idea isn't as crazy as it sounds.
It's no different than the serum that a horse can make if you've been bit by a snake.
In 2002, Linda went to Africa to help Dr. Davis in the Ivory Coast. And when she sat down with me, it was the first time she had ever told her story.
What I saw, what I experienced for the 2 years we were there, will last me my whole life.
Linda says she and Dr. Davis first met two men who both had AIDS.
These two gentlemen were very, very ill.
As part of their first clinical trial with the government's approval, Linda says Dr. Davis injected both men with his goat serum.
And once we started giving them the injections, everything changed for them. They got their energy back.
She says the patients went back to work, and she and Dr. Davis were thrilled.
And there are no side effects. Thus far, we've had no side effects.
And in most cases, if something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. However, I was there and I totally witnessed this, and it is very, very real.
Linda says the government then gave them the go-ahead for a larger clinical trial with 19 AIDS patients. And again, she says she witnessed the same results.
Literally, after the first injection, they started feeling strength and energy within a matter of 20 to 30 minutes. Most of them were actually strong enough within 72 hours to return to their jobs.
She remembers one woman who was too sick to walk into the clinic.
They brought her in, and literally she was on a stretcher, and that's how sick she was. And within 30 minutes of her first injection, the strength came back, and she actually walked out of the clinic.
Linda says the serum wasn't just killing the virus, it was doing it quickly. Doug was there when the lab results came back.
And that was all just glowing and was considered to be, just the capping the thing off that really gave them the proof they needed.
He says Dr. Davis and Linda were overjoyed.
Linda wept. He said, "I told you this is exactly how this was going to come out." He wasn't surprised at the least. The viral count had dropped to the point it was undetectable.
I was shocked, I was amazed, I was in awe.
At that point, Doug started visually documenting Dr. Davis's research. They flew to the next door country of Ghana, whose government paid for yet another clinical trial. Doug says 2 men and a husband and wife came into the clinic. 4 people, all desperate, dealing with a virus they knew would kill them.
They were obviously very, very sick. They exhausted all means of any help there, and they knew they basically had a long, slow slide to the end.
In this never-before-seen footage, Dr. Davis introduced himself to the patients and told them what to expect.
Until 2 years has passed, not 2 days. 2 years have passed, with you being off of all medication, can we say this is a cure?
Then Dr. Davis gave the patients 2 injections, 1 in each arm.
It was a big needle and a lot, and it was obviously very painful. In very short order, felt and looked much better. When they came back the next day, they looked better, they walked better, they talked stronger, they were optimistic.
Well, now I feel better than before I came here.
Doug documented injections and reaction over the next several days.
And you slept well?
I slept very well.
And you ate well?
I ate very well.
Exactly what he said would happen happened.
And I pray that you will all continue to do just as well as you're doing now. And I know you will.
That's great.
Doug says at that point, Ghana's president agreed to fund the project.
We felt good about the whole thing. We kind of felt like our work was done.
Doug flew back home to Tulsa, and that's when he heard about a little girl on the other side of the country who he says may be the best evidence that Dr. Davis's serum could be a cure. Coming up later, a mother who says she stole Dr. Davis's medicine for her 6-year-old daughter with HIV. Don't miss the conclusion of our story later in the newscast.
Time now for part 2 of our special report on what some believe to be a miracle cure for AIDS developed by a Tulsa doctor.
Yeah, here again is Fox 23's Janet Clark. She continues this Fox 23 exclusive.
Back in 2004, photographer Doug Henderson witnessed a Tulsa doctor doing clinical trials in Africa and perform what seemed like miracles. The doctor injected AIDS patients with his serum made from a goat. Doug says the doctor's serum appeared to have been working. After Doug came home, he heard about a little girl who took the serum before the doctor ever left for Africa. Doug says she may be the best evidence that the doctor's serum might actually be the cure for AIDS.
That's me.
People tell her she looks much younger, but Precious is 17 now. And that's a big deal when you have a deadly virus.
I was born with HIV. Contracted it from my mother, my birth mother.
Her drug-addicted mother gave her to a woman named Rocky Thomas, who says she loved that baby instantly and adopted her.
Oh my goodness, yes, it was just an instant bond. That was my baby.
Rocky says even as a baby, Precious was sick and spent more time in the hospital than at home.
This picture, I probably was sick.
They were living in Washington, D.C., just as they do now. Precious was getting the best care in the country.
She was just staying sick. I mean, we did ample amount of medicine on top of medicine.
By the time Precious was 6, Rocky knew her little girl could die any day. Rocky was desperate. So when she heard about a doctor in Tulsa who said he had a new treatment he created by injecting a goat, Rocky didn't care if it sounded crazy.
It didn't matter how nuts it was right at that point in time.
In 1998, Rocky made arrangements to get on a train with Precious to travel 1,000 miles to meet this doctor and his so-called goat serum. And she didn't tell a soul.
Nobody wasn't going to talk me out of doing what I did.
When Rocky and Precious got to Tulsa, they met Dr. Gary Davis, a family practitioner who'd injected goats with the AIDS virus and then used the antibodies the goats made to create a serum. Dr. Davis died in 2007, but Rocky says when she met him, she could tell he just wanted to make sick people well.
He was a man of God that wanted to help people. And he said God had given him this vision to go get the antibody from this goat.
Rocky says she asked the doctor dozens of questions, and he even showed her a vial of the serum itself. She says when the doctor wasn't looking, she did something only a desperate mother would do.
But I know I took it.
What do you mean you took it?
I took the serum.
You stole it?
I stole it.
Did you think about asking Dr. Davis?
He couldn't.
You asked him for
I
it?
did.
And what did he say?
He couldn't do it because it wasn't FDA approved.
Rocky says with the knowledge she had, she gave Precious the serum, and within hours, Precious was different, full of energy, the kind a 6-year-old should have.
It scared me that she was all over the place, jumping off the couch.
Rocky says over the next few days, she kept giving Precious injections until the serum was gone.
She was just up, running around, wanting to eat.
Did you know for sure it was the serum?
It had to be the serum because she wasn't on anything. She wasn't taking anything.
Rocky and Precious came home to Washington, D.C., and Rocky says part of her was terrified someone would find out what she had done. But when she looked at how healthy Precious was, she didn't care.
What did I have to lose? Her? You know, lock me up? Okay, that's a chance I was going to take.
Not long after she got home, Precious went for a checkup. Doctors at the National Institutes of Health were monitoring her. When the lab report came back, Rocky says everyone was stunned about Precious's viral load.
I started shaking, I was sweating. I said, "Come here, Precious." And we was in there jumping and screaming, and I was like, "Your viral load is 0. Baby, your viral load is 0. And she was, you know, oh my God, you talk about a good feeling. And at that point in time, I didn't care. I got on the phone, called Dr. Davis, and it was like a party.
Was he mad at you?
No, not at all.
He understood. He understood you were a desperate mother.
He understood the desperation.
Her lab report showed Precious's viral load was undetectable. There was no sign of the HIV virus in her blood.
Had any other medication done that?
Never.
Had any other medication come close?
Never.
Rocky says she didn't know how to tell the doctors at the NIH what she had done, but soon after they were all there at the Congressional Black Caucus, where an obviously healthier Precious was the keynote speaker.
I know many of you are looking at me and saying, what could a little girl like me have to say? My name is Precious Thomas.
Rocky decided that would be the time Precious would tell the world about the serum. Rocky says she was literally sick with worry.
I was nervous. I was sick. I was sick.
Who would have thought something this special could be found in a goat?
That's when the story came out.
Then what happened?
Nothing.
Rocky says she tried to talk to health officials at the NIH about the serum. She was hoping she could help Dr. Davis get his serum approved by the Food and Drug Administration.
And what did they say?
They weren't no parts of it. It was like nobody wanted to talk about it.
Somebody could have with us and could have been approved, and it could have helped people.
At the same time Rocky gave the serum to Precious, Dr. Davis was working with the FDA to get a clinical trial. But that clinical trial never happened. A frustrated Dr. Davis went all the way to Africa to continue his research. Linda Wilmez worked as the doctor's assistant in Africa. She says 6 hours before the clinical trial in the U.S. was supposed to start, the FDA pulled the plug, saying it needed more answers.
He was sent multiple questions, not once but twice. He answered all the questions and sent them back, and still nothing.
We came to the National Institutes of Health in Washington, D.C. Representatives in the AIDS division say the science behind Dr. Davis's research wasn't good enough. They say they worked with Dr. Davis to try to help him continue his research, but they say he ignored them.
As far as we know, Precious is the only person in America who's taken the serum.
Is Dr. Davis's serum the only medication you've ever taken out of all these medications that actually made your viral load go down that significantly and down to 0?
Yes.
So that's why you believe in it?
Right.
Several months after she took the serum, Precious's viral load creeped back up. But Rocky believes had she given her daughter the full dosage, her daughter would be cured.
It worked. It worked.
Now Rocky's afraid that when Dr. Davis died, the cure for AIDS may have died with him.
All he wanted to do was help. So it's like we'll never know.
I asked representatives at the NIH if they would consider looking into the serum today, but they didn't seem interested. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the AIDS division of the NIH, did give us this statement. Quote, not only is there not any basis for it to work, but there is evidence to the contrary that it won't work because this type of approach has been tried before in an even more sophisticated way.
I wish they'd just give us an opportunity. Just give us a chance.
Doug Henderson, a photographer who documented Dr. Davis's clinical trial in Africa, says even a skeptic like him sees potential in Davis's serum.
Either this is the cure for AIDS or the biggest con anybody's ever pulled.
Took my viral load to 0.
Doug still says the best evidence that the serum could be a cure is a little girl named Precious, who believes she's only alive today because of Dr. Davis's serum.
I think he was on to something that was really good. And I just wish, you know, he could have finished.
As far as we know, at least 25 people in Africa took Dr. Davis's goat serum. Linda, the doctor's assistant, says a year after they took the serum, they were all still doing well. But she hasn't been able to get an update since then. She says she's willing to do whatever it takes to continue Dr. Davis's work, whether that's in this country or somewhere else. Jana Clark, Fox 23 News.
To see these stories again and
Nice and hard.
It started with fevers and thrush on the tongue when Precious was just an infant, shortly after Rocky adopted her. Rocky knew the birth mother was a drug addict. She didn't know the woman had AIDS. When Precious was 1 year old, Rocky got the news. Precious is HIV positive.
Devastated, stunned. No, my next step was to give her the best treatment that I could.
Okay, this how we start over.
And so it began, an endless odyssey from one hospital, one doctor, one drug to another, in search of something to keep Precious well enough to lead a normal life. Her story went public, leading to headlines in suburban Washington, D.C. newspapers, appearances with celebrities, even a visit from President Clinton. In the meantime, one experimental treatment, Chemron, did give her more energy for almost 2 years.
And the fever started coming back, and was staying at the hospitals and upper respiratory infection.
When Dateline Houston continues, it is a string of events that may catch the attention of researchers around the world.
Now, back to Dateline Houston. Here's Linda Lowell.
We continue our story of 3 lives brought together by a mysterious drug, the mother who steals it, the man who fights in court to take it, and the doctor who brings them all together by creating it.
What parent wouldn't want the child, you know, to not have to suffer like people with AIDS will suffer? It's not it.
Hello there, Bobby. The search for that relief led Rocky Thomas all the way to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the doorstep of Dr. Gary Davis, a family practitioner with a medical degree from Dartmouth.
I want something done about AIDS, and I want something to help my patients. And I want it done now.
That's what Dr. Davis told us last year when we broke the story of his controversial AIDS treatment that comes from, of all things, a goat.
You know this as anti-venom.
antibodies from a horse given to a person to neutralize a snake bite.
In this case, we take the antibodies from a goat that have been immunized with the virus. We give you the antibodies made in the goat to kill the virus.
This story of Dr. Davis and his goat serum traveled across the country to Rocky in Maryland, where she also saw pictures of an AIDS patient in Africa, whose physician developed a goat serum based on Dr. Davis's procedures. The man's family says he went from his deathbed to being well enough to work and had no side effects. From that moment on, Rocky had only one thing on her mind.
I just was going to see the goat doctor. I kept saying I'm going to see the goat doctor.
There was just one problem. The goat doctor's treatment was not approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Dr. Davis has spent 2 years trying to get approval for a Phase 1 clinical trial. At one point, he actually received the go-ahead. But 6 hours before the first patient was to be injected, FDA investigators had more questions. And they say until they get the answers, Dr. Davis and his goat serum are on clinical hold. But that didn't stop Rocky from going to Tulsa to meet Dr. Davis.
She made me want to learn about the procedure, what a neutralizing antibody was, and how do you give this particular serum, and what are the side effects. I've had 100 people, thousands, ask me the same thing.
So what does goat serum look like anyway? Well, it looks like this. A clear liquid that is first frozen and then thawed to room temperature when ready to use. Rocky says she gave Precious 7 doses. During this time that she was taking the goat serum, she was also being monitored by the doctors at NIH, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Records at the National Institutes of Health show Precious's HIV levels dropped from 186,000 to 0 in just 4 months. Rocky couldn't wait to call Dr. Davis.
She said, Precious is doing great. I said, well, good. Well, I said, what's she doing? And she said, well, I gave Precious a serum. And I went, what serum? And she had given her the antibodies. I didn't know she had it.
Why didn't you report this to the authorities?
I understand her position. I don't agree with the methodology, but I do understand she wants to try to save her daughter's life. I do understand that if she went to Dr. Kevorkian and he said, here's the medicine that you can use to kill yourself, go kill yourself, that you have a right to die. And here's a person saying, I want the right to live. And we got a problem with that. Might as well be on death row.
A needle prick by a drug-crazed man 10 years ago infected Bob Cowan with HIV.
There they go.
Now he has AIDS and wants desperately to try the goat serum. What about the other drugs that are out there on the market that are approved?
I can't take them.
Why not?
They had such adverse and devastating effects on me, they almost killed me.
So Cowan asked the FDA for an emergency waiver, but was denied. Then he filed a restraining order, and that was denied. Now in court for a third time, he's still trying to force the FDA to let him take the goat serum. And he's still waiting.
I'm pretty passive. I haven't yelled and screamed a lot, but if I have to, I'll scream from the highest mountaintop. Get out of my way and let me get well.
The FDA cannot comment on any of this because of confidentiality and the pending litigation. But it's important to note, here in Rockville, Maryland, the FDA has taken steps to speed up the drug approval process, especially when there's evidence of a major advancement in medical treatment. After the clinical trials were completed, some HIV drugs made it on the market last year in just under 3 months.
Sometimes, sure,
Dr. Davis admits there are problems with his application, and he's taken steps to correct them. But he stresses some patients simply don't have time to wait for the FDA's lengthy process of approving new drugs.
If they're concerned about this, they need to sit down and talk to me, and I'll say, you take over the wheel. Let an independent group do it. Do it.
But you're just saying, look at this as an alternative.
Yes, as an alternative to help the patients that are dying from AIDS. What's the problem?
That's what Rocky wanted to know. But instead of waiting for an answer, she took action that could land her behind bars. Are you having second thoughts about any of it?